go. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Welcome to the show. Peace, family. The shadow illuminates from the soul. Knowledge itself. You probably sitting on a pot of gold. Tell me in the chat, you think we from Africa? Really though? The wrong perspective will cloud your judgment. I mean, somebody could tell you somebody you wasn't. Pay more homage and less worship. You tired of being a pushover than be assertive. Politics is just an old ancient secret circus. It get deeper the more you go in below the surface. You gotta learn to heal the trauma, be your own savior. My old earth gave me birth to God, one with nature. I'm an American Indian, fight for the rights of my native land. I'm an American Indian, fight for your rights, fight for your life. Eastern Shore, Mississippian, down by the river. Black man, red skin, bunch of Indian givers. Real side of Shakur, prisoners of the war. Return of the matriarch, the return of the God. East side, muddy water, we indigenous tribes. Black Wall Street, I run a family business of mine. Straight out the gutter, word the mother, high chief on the rise. They read the Bible translation, but ain't reading the scribe. Keep it G, Cherokee, Gullah Geechee, the gang. You know how it is, everybody got beef with the king. Turtle Island, we steppin', can't let them kill our connection. You know the mind and the tongue be the deadliest weapons. I'm an American Indian, fight for the rights of my native land. I'm an American Indian, fight for your rights, fight for your life. I am a real American, fight for the rights of my native land. I am a real American, fight for your rights, fight for your life. Doni Glover, here it go. Like, share, comment.
Good evening. Welcome everyone to the show. My name is Doni Glover, publisher of BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. And I want to personally welcome you to tonight's discussion. Our Indigenous Series has truly taken on a life of its own, from the chats and comments to the phone calls, many phone calls. I sound like the president there a little bit. And messages. It's clear that this conversation is striking a real chord with people across the country. Each week, each show, new viewers join us. And our goal is the same: to spark thought, to challenge narratives, and to inspire deeper reflection on who we are. Here's the truth. Much of what we hold dear, much of what we think we know, what we believe about ourselves, was taught to us by someone else. It came from outside of our own households. In school, we learned about the American Revolution, about slavery, about the Civil War, Jim Crow, segregation. But at home, we heard a different kind of story, stories from down south, tales of our great-great-grandparents, the oral traditions passed down from generation to generation. And so now a new generation is asking questions. They're digging into our roots, searching for truth and demanding proof. Word to the wise, you better have your receipts when you come on this show. Without further ado, let's bring up our panel. Mafia Shakur, good evening. You muted, buddy.
How you feeling, Mr. Glover? Please, peace.
Good evening. Hannibal Jones, how are you, sir?
Hey, what up, though, Johnny? What up, though, Mafia Secure?
Peace, Hannibal.
All right. We got Planet Wells. How you doing, Planet?
Good. Peace. All right.
And is there secret balance? Is there someone joining us?
Yeah, special guest. That's who sent the information to us.
Oh, okay. You're going to cut your camera on, Secret?
Hello.
How you doing? Mafia, I hand you the ball.
Yeah, so tell quickly tell us, your background and where you're coming from with the information.
Well, I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, and uh, I have a background in entrepreneurship, and I've done studies in accounting and liberal arts as far as a formal education. But other than that, I'm autodidactic. I've been self-taught, and I guess you can say I'm on a mission of erudition.
Excellent.
So I wanted to start with sovereignty. Like, what is sovereignty to you, and how does that relate to American Indian culture?
In terms of sovereignty, us being able to determine who we are, why we're here, and what our intentions and purposes this lifetime. Because I think it really makes a difference internally and on a spiritual level.
Okay. So, claimant, what is status correction?
Status correction is putting on the record for the world to see who you are, and that's something that is self-determined. It's not something that other people determine. So it's kind of been misperceived due to the 14th Amendment and a lot of the statutes and codes that came here after um, different conquests here on this land. But prior to that, it would have been recognized based on our clans and based on our tribal membership.
So would you say that the status reclamation will have to do with how they changed our names and changed our identities over the centuries?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. So could you tell us about your 12-step spiritual plan that you passed along to Mafia?
Well, it's based on the Haitian and the concept is coming to awareness of who we are, what we hold as values, our immediate environment, our home or our roots, our culture, and then our self-expression, as well as the what we do for work, how we connect to others, our deeper connections with others in terms of marriage and connecting in a deeper spiritual way, and then our higher knowledge, as well as how we're seen in the world, and then our connection to everybody else in the world, and going home in Pisces, and our connection to our ancestors and the spiritual dimension we come from.
Like African Americans.
You were muted a little bit, or I didn't catch the very first part.
So what is our status currently as being quote unquote African Americans or Black?
For one, Black has no standing at law, and the concept of African American is an oxymoron in a sense because you can't be from two continents. But in terms of those two, just on the base level, we have nothing on the record. We're just numbers, just like they have in a prison or any other system. We have to actually put something on the record for it to be there.
Okay, so like far as our audience, we claim we're on point of claiming our indigenous roots, our Indian roots. So is it a status of being an Indian here in this country?
The one connection that we could say we have to that would be the American Indian, but even the word Indian itself is questionable relative to how everyone sees it. But it there is a concept there as far as status connection goes, where we would state that in our documentation and then file it on the record. So it's not really just like saying you're Black or white or anything like that. It's what you determine, and then you put it on the record for the world to see.
Well, okay, so that's like doing like affidavits and stuff like that and going through probate and stuff like that.
Yes, the affidavit of status would be the very first thing that you would do before you do anything else. You would do your affidavit of status to notify the world that you are a living person and that you are stating what you're recognized as.
Okay.
So how does the affidavit or correcting the status tie into treaty law or commercial law or the legalities of the system?
Well, our status in terms of who we are would relate to how we would connect to being an adult versus being a minor. So when they're saying minority and majority, they're talking about how we're seen relative to our competence, our ability to make decisions for ourselves. So that's where that would connect into the legalities of it. And the spirituality and commercial system overlay each other.
Okay. So
Welcome, Mr. Robert. Welcome, Mr. Robert, in here with us too. How you feeling, Mr. Robert?
Good evening, brothers. How are you?
I'm okay. How y'all doing? So to recap, so you saying that being classified as a minority is basically saying that you're not competent to do things on your own.
That's right. Just like
So
a little kid, they need us to help them with things. Yeah.
So Mr. Robert Fulton, so could you expound on that? Like when do the legal system see minorities as incompetent?
No. The in this state, the issue of competency in a civil matter is raised generally by someone filing a petition for guardianship over a person or guardianship over the person's property. In either event, it requires that in order to be granted, the petition must be supported by the written opinions of two qualified professionals, healthcare professionals, either physicians or general physicians or psychiatrists or someone licensed in the healthcare profession, to state that the person lacks the capacity to either to make healthcare decisions for themselves or to make decisions generally regarding their affairs. There is no presumption of incompetency. There's no presumption of incompetency with respect to anybody that I'm aware of.
So on the topic of status, and is it when being recognized in this country on your status, that is it any competency level there? Because we being inside the health field and being recognized as Black or Indian is, I think that's two different things. So I'm more interested in the status end.
I'm not sure I understand. I thought the question is whether or not legally there was a presumption that Black people were incompetent. I thought that was the question.
I reframed. I was saying that that the term minority has to do with something with the competency of people. Like our guest was saying that being a minority and being a majority is like being a child and being an adult. So I was trying to clarify with you, like, as us being quote unquote Black or African Americans, we're considered minorities in this country. So when we walk into courts or we doing business in this place, do they look at us as minors, like we don't know what we're doing?
He just said no.
No. Yeah. I'm not aware of any such presumption either. The term majority and minority initially was based upon the numbers.
Okay.
The number of white people versus the number of non-white people, or the number of people who were classified or self-designated themselves as something other than either white or African American. But it does not, the term majority or minority does not in the legal field have anything to do with your recognition as having as being an adult or not being an adult.
So here's one question that it comes up over and over. People will put in the chat. I don't know if you get to see the comments in the chat, but that chat can get on fire. But people regularly say, we are not Black. Black is not a race, and it's not a distinction. I've often seen Black. Hey, Hannibal, why don't you keep your screen still? You're making us dizzy over here. But they say, what do they say, Hannibal, about Black?
Say Black is dead, right, in the dictionary. That Black means dead in the Black Laws Dictionary.
And so the people who watch the show refute being called Black.
Well, I think it's up to any individual to determine for his or herself what they want to be called. The concept of race itself is cultural. We're not born a race. We are assigned a race by the culture that we are part of, either at birth or during the course of our lives. We're not born black, but nobody's born white either. So it's up. But for example, if somebody asks me, "What do you call yourself?" I say an American black. I don't use the term African American because Elon Musk is an African American, and there's very little that I have in common with him. Nor do I use the word colored because, from my understanding, white is also a color, so that doesn't distinguish me. The race was invented as a means of separating and identifying non-white people from those who were accepted as being white.
Secrete, I see you over there smiling. Is it secrete or secret? Because I'm confused.
It's secret, and it's secret balance. So it's speaking to us actually finding that that leverage that allows us to be at a balanced point where we always have one space off to point us up. So we're trying to traject up and ascend. So what I wanted to speak to is the concept of adhesion contracts and implied contracts. Because a lot of times what we're not realizing is when it comes to contracts, sometimes it's about our actions, not about whether we signed the contract or we shook somebody's hand. It's really referencing how we act, and what we do in reference to whatever medium we're entertaining. But in these courts, they, because of their presumptions and assumptions, when we carry out the roles of minors, which is meaning that we're unaware of how the system works, because if we were unaware, we wouldn't be there. Because emotion doesn't mean that you actually have to show up. Neither does an appearance. So when you send in emotion, you don't necessarily have to be there, but we're not aware of that because we presume that we are the person on the document, just like they do. But in the all caps name is referencing an actual corporation or a court. Now that's on
Okay,
the
hold tight for a second, Secrete. Can y'all hear her clearly?
It's a little distorted.
Not clearly, but I can hear it.
Okay, do y'all understand what she said thus far?
Yeah, I understand what she said.
Yes.
Well, can somebody help me to understand? Because I'm
Well,
not hearing.
she's 100% accurate. First of all, when she's dealing with contractual law and adhesion law, regardless to whether or not you claim to be a minor or not, if you're operating in the public, you're automatically considered domicile and automatically considered D.C. as well as adolescent. So now what she's trying to explain on the minority side, where first of all, minority means loser. And if you claim to be a black American, they are automatically know that you don't know who you are because those two terms was issued out by the same corporations that have us in these adhesive contracts. But when it was issued at birth, when after your mother gave contractions and signed the bond to make you an surety to a debt that doesn't have anything to do with you but to control your energy in all capital letters. And so what they do is when they call you on the docket, they're not even calling you, but they're calling a statue or a dead person. So when you automatically say here, and what she's saying is that you're that dead person. It's like if they ask you if you can represent yourself, that's perjury because you have the word read twice in one word. So you can't represent yourself. It's impossible.
Okay, so like Mr.
Mafia, help me to understand where we're going with this. I'm fuzzy.
Okay. We trying to identify, like Mr. Robert was saying, it's up to you or the individual to classify yourself as what you classifying yourself. So with the reclassification of who we were with Walter Plecker and all these other things, we have to identify as who we are. So we are identifying with American Indian as opposed to black because that has a status legally as opposed to these other cultural things that we take hold on to. So in order to identify ourselves as who we are, we have to have a status correction of who we are, like we saying on the private side and on the public side, if you're dealing with both sectors.
And what would you suggest?
Well,
that
you can't mix
correction?
all. You can't mix oil with water. Sorry about that, brother.
I'm just lost.
Say it again, Donnie.
What does that mean?
It's a correction of status. It's like when you apply for a job or something, and they give you these options. None of the options that they have there identify with who we are. But since
so what should we do?
That's what we come into the table to bring. What
do you do? What do you do thus far?
So I believe that we reclaim our status from our identity of who we were in the beginning. But like what she was saying, like they did all these things in order to get this law and these fundamentals that we're going through now in these systems. So the term Negro, Black, instead of Indian, like the word Indian is a federal marker. So when you use the word Indian, that's only federal recognition. So we use the word Native American. Native American is only groups of people in Indian tribes. You get what I mean? So what we're trying to get across to our people is that if we're claiming our indigenous aspect, we need to know what is going on legally. So Secrete is coming with the aspect of how to reclaim it, even if we don't become a nation, how to go about claiming this self-determination, so to speak.
Okay, now what did you hear? What steps are you here? Did you hear Secrete say we need to take?
The status reclamation, right? The status, reclaiming our status, reclaiming who we are. Right, one of your first steps.
Yeah, I was saying, did you have anything?
No, but go ahead, Secrete. Go ahead, Secrete.
Well, the main thing is the affidavit of status. Once you do that, then you can do other steps that follow that. But the affidavit of status is really important before you do anything else, because anything that follows after that will take on that conditioning from what you put your status on record as. And then the next thing, it will follow, if you're going to go in terms of doing taxes, because everybody thinks taxes is a big thing, the Form 56 allows you to actually take control of your IRS packages, in a sense.
What form? What form?
Form 56.
Form 56, affidavit status.
And then Form 56, the second one, yes.
Yeah, she's 100% correct, because when we dealing
about what, Horace?
Well, no, she's correct about the status correction in regards to dealing with this quasi legal system that is pretty much based on war as well as admiralty maritime law, the law of the sea, and the reason why they claim that they use admiralty because we were once underwater. So now all lawyers, judges, et cetera, they know that the statutes at large, which are probably 15,000 volumes in number, trump all of the statutes that they have, that they're ruling the people under false admiralty jurisdiction, for the purpose of extracting energy. But when it comes to we're not assigned a race at birth, hypothetically, because like I was saying on one of the shows originally, the American so-called Indians in this country, we're not even in the race, because with the document of unfair, uneven exchange is that we can contribute to the financial generator, but we can't get anything out of it.
Okay, let me go to the attorney. Attorney Dashiell, does any of this make sense to you?
Not a bit. We're not. I'm not. I mean, maybe I missed something in the 53 years or so that I've been practicing law, but I've never known the origin of the law that is applied in this country is a place called the English common law. Admiralty is a specialty within the legal field But the generally the laws had nothing to do with admiralty or maritime. I don't know. I don't nor have I ever heard of such a thing called adhesion law.
So what about
I'm not familiar with
adhesion contracts.
A contract of adhesion is, as an example, is an insurance contract. And the reason that it's called a contract of adhesion is that typically it's offered by one party without the opportunity or even the right, in some cases, for the other party to modify or amend any of its terms. But generally,
that's what the problem is.
Contract of adhesion is, but there's always the choice not to sign it in the first place.
Can I ask a question?
There are no contracts of adhesion that are mandatory, that everybody or anybody must sign. That I'm aware of.
I think I'm more focused on treaty law. So with my family, the 1832 Treaty of Cassetta gave us property land. A lot of our people had quote unquote farmland down in Alabama, Mississippi. Ain't nowhere in the world you can get property in Alabama and Mississippi after 1832 if you wasn't dealing with no Native Americans. No way. So what I'm saying that if your family owned property in the state of Alabama around 1832, you were dealing with Native Americans. And I'm saying that our people has been reclassified and the land has been taken away, especially the mineral rights. Like my family, we dealing with graphite and tin. So what I'm saying is that we got, like when my third great grandmother got her property in 1876, she got it for $1. And the original owner was a Creek Indian under the Treaty of Cassetta. So what I'm realizing, what she's saying is that you can actually change your status and become a creditor under that UCC 1 law.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the UCC.
There's no such thing as UCC 1 law. The uniform commercial code.
It's a document, but the UCC is a uniform commercial code. That's the overall set of practices in the commercial set of law system that everybody recognizes in all states, and that's why they call it uniform. And they do one that they have one that's global.
Yeah, but generally, the uniform commercial code doesn't even apply to a transaction involving real estate, except in very narrow areas and consumer rights and that sort of thing. So I frankly, I'd be a lot more concerned about the voluntary acts that had been taken by people who look like they belong to the group that has traditionally been designated either as colored, black, African American, Negro, or whatever. The voluntary acts of property disposition that have been not by what's been taken. That for sure, land has been taken, but there's been as much given away by generations 1 and 2 generations prior to mine as there was taken, because we don't recognize the value of land. We don't recognize that land just is. The reason it's called real estate is because it's the only real asset there is. It is the only thing that man cannot reproduce. But we've given it away. We've moved from the farms. We've gotten too sophisticated to get our hands dirty in crop raising. We've gotten too educated to be involved with milking cows and slaughtering hogs and feeding chickens, which I did growing up. We want to carry. Everybody wants to carry a briefcase and look important. And as a result,
can I intervene?
The land that we had in Georgia and Alabama that could have been passed on from generation to generation, we've given away literally for a song.
So, but we still got to Walter like the paper genocide. I don't think we was necessarily giving the land away.
And when I say giving away, I know people who have done it. I'm not fictionalizing this. I know families that have literally given the land away for nothing like its real fair market value. Sometimes out of ignorance, sometimes because they just were too good to stay there and farm
it. If anybody on here has a mortgage, or if you have a car contract, if you pull your contract, even a credit card, in the first set of lines, you're gonna see where it says you give all rights, titles, and interests in this contract. So if we're not dealing with them and we're operating together outside of their system, there's a difference in what we would even consider rights, titles, and interests versus what they consider it, because they have a public primary market and then they have a secondary market where they trade these things. And because it's generating so much capital, we're actually giving away our energy. So every time we're going to work and we're paying for these contracts that are obligations of the United States, for which we didn't necessarily know we were signing up for, because most of us were babies when our mom signed our birth certificate. So we entered the system before our feet ever hit the ground. That's why they have the soul plate on the birth certificate. If we were
no one. First of all, a mortgage is an instrument that secures repayment of a debt. The debt is voluntarily incurred by the person who signed the mortgage. When the debt is repaid, the lien on that property created by the mortgage goes away. That's not something that applies just to black people. That's to anybody who buys a house.
Can I intervene?
We
according to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me? According to the law, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So now, and I agree with you, Esquire, in regards, because I've seen people give houses away, whether they wanted to keep it in, didn't want to keep it in the family, or we're looking for a quick buck. But so far as some of these contracts that we didn't know that we were signing, because I mean, just think of it: when you're a teenager and you go for your first job, you are coerced or pretty much telling you that you need to sign a W-2 form, and that's an automatic contract with the Spanish Inquisitions. So a lot of these things that we're dealing with when it comes to, like you said, that consent, is that a lot of people don't know that they're giving their consent in these situations, and then they find themselves in an adhesive contract. That's why the brother was saying the Uniform Commercial Code 1. He was almost there, but he was talking about UCC 1-308, which is currently UCC 1-207. So now, if you're not bound by any of these contracts out of ignorance, then that's a difference. But if you're ignorant to what you're signing or giving away, then now you're stuck in a position. And like the sister said, is that you're in the contract and you're a surety for a debt, and the repayment of a debt. We don't have anything. We don't have any gold and silver, and according to their laws, that the only thing that is feasible for the repayment of a debt is gold and silver. They took all the gold and silver in the 30s, and when they went bankrupt. So now the Federal Reserve notes, or the floating rate notes that we hold in our pockets, are only supposed to be used by government employees. So they hold no real value other than the value that we give to them. But the debt is everything is based on debt. That's how they keep on with these college tuitions and billions, and people that sign in contracts to pay rent and all this other stuff. Because when you're dealing with a mortgage, it's the same word as a mortuary. It's something that's dead. So, but we don't know these, but legalese is a hell of a game, tricking our people through their Latin languages, for I don't know how long. You go into a court, like the saying, when you put in your special appearance, to a court, where when you step over that line, you're in the water. The judge is up where? In a boat. Over there with the rest of the 12 people that's in the boat over here. So, the Admiralty Maritime Law and dealing with the common law. Yeah, the common law is what we're supposed to be operating under, but that's why they got two separate constitutions, an organic one and this fake constitution that Trump is trying to get rid of right now.
So how does outside of understanding the legalities and the contract law connect to indigenous rights and the status correction?
Well, we have to come up with our own. No, go ahead, sister.
Well, I was going to say, in 1946, there was a trust that was set up for the American Indians that's been gaining interest since then, and it's under the Civil Rights Act. They have the American Indian Rights, and this is where we find that they put these trusts aside for the American Indians, but none of the American Indians have stepped up to say that that's who we are, because we've been claiming Black, African American, and all these other things that we hadn't been aware of who we are enough to come forward and say, okay, we've corrected our status, and we're actually not even corrected it because there's nothing to correct. There's nothing there for us. It just says a number, so they don't even know who they're dealing with. For them, this system is just a bunch of numbers, and we're just another number in the book. The thing is, once we put our status there, now we can be recognized as something. And if we want to be recognized together, we can do it well. But that would be unfair for their system. But for us, we wouldn't call ourselves indigenous or native because we didn't use that terminology before they came here. That came from them. This was Turtle Island.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the word Black as well as the word American.
Right.
You know, those words don't have anything to do with us. And so, you know, that's just like your name is just say Janet. So you go and tell somebody, oh, my name is Alicia, then you're not even claiming your own name. So that sister is on point. And I because a lot of people don't understand that. And I really don't get to those conversations like that due to that. But I think that, man, you are on point. You are directly on point with that one.
So for those people that don't know what we're talking about, or those people who heard that they had an indigenous parent, should they actually get us to listen to say, well, maybe I should think of or at least research this thing called status reclamation, or understand the terminology that's going on and basically understand what may have been taken in the past?
Yes, based on my research, the United States was created for everybody in the world. Anybody who has a birth certificate and a social security card, or anyone that has the ability to come here and get a green card, has the ability to do all of these things as well. But for me, I am focused directly tonight on the concept of our what we would call indigenous reclamation, or the reclamation of our status in terms of our people as a whole, because we need to do this together, because collectively it's more powerful. I can do it myself, and then they could come after one little me and say, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But when I'm standing with 100 men behind me, they're not going to run up too quick and say, hey, oh, sister, we're not going to recognize that. No, you're going to recognize it, because it's not just me. Now I've got a whole team of people. We're all willing to walk outside of your system after reclaiming all of our funds that you have illegally taken. And see, what's legal and what's lawful is two different things. We can talk about legalities all day, but when it comes to what's lawful, you're going into universal law, spiritual law, which overlays commercial law. So when we're purchasing things, we wouldn't be buying from these people if we had our own system set up. We would be buying from each other. But they removed that ability when everybody wanted to say, well, let's go and integrate. That took away our own ability for us to just deal with each other just like they deal with each other. Because although we integrated, that don't mean that they buy from us. They still buy from each other, while we have no means of really finding each other to buy from each other, because now we're all separated.
So I'm taking away that status correction is the first step towards anything, is a status correction, to have an affidavit of truth that corrects your status on the books.
Yes, and then the revocation of power. I'm sorry.
No, sister, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got a question for the brother Hannibal.
Yes, sir.
You know, the other, you had mentioned one of the surnames or the subnames of the Cherokees.
Yes, sir.
Is it so? What is it called again? Tasogi, something like that.
Tasalagi or something like that. TSALA.
Yeah, Tasalagi, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Where you know, if y'all hear when I be doing my honors list, I always give shots out to Chief Redbird.
Yes, sir.
And so they have created the trust you know what I'm saying, with the Cherokee Tassalaki Nation. So we all, you know what I'm saying, the more of us that start, you know, coming onto that trust, because they understand, you know, who we are. We just don't get it yet. But I'm so, man, you have no idea, sister, how proud of you I am to know what you know right now, because that's so deep that it's I'm in shock right now. You know, and so when we dealing with, you know, law, you know, and no disrespect to my brother, because I know he's been doing it for 50 years, but that lawyer doesn't know law, he knows procedure. And so now when we go in with a representative to speak for us, because we are at a case ourselves, so now they have every advantage over us. So like how they tell you, don't talk to the police. Well, as soon as you answer a question, you bound yourself to a contract that doesn't even have to be written up until somewhere on later on down the line. So it's a lot of trickery when it comes to dealing with this invader that's on our land. And but I'm just so proud of the people that's waking up to this, and these discussions are so important. But yeah, Chief Redbird, the Cherokee Tassalaki Nation, that's probably a hell of a starting point for the majority of us, because she has the elodie to the land 6 episodes ago.
Okay, so Harsh, let me jump in here for a second. We got on the line with us Brenda Bennett, who is a person that regularly supports us and helps out with the show. Brenda, are you there?
I'm here.
Brenda, can you help me make sense of this?
Okay, what they're talking about, and it's, you know, for me it's very simple. You have an attorney here. I'm a paralegal. I went to school for paralegal studies, and you have an attorney here. And I think what's happening in disconnect is that, let's say, independent nations within the borders have also used that sort of, that knowledge, I'll put it this way, that knowledge base. Like, for instance, if you get a Moor who goes into court, and I have relatives who are Moors, right? The judge will not deal with them the way he deals with other people coming into court, because of this body of knowledge that they're presenting. So what winds up happening is the judge usually clears the court and deals with them directly on the basis of what they're talking about. There is a I guess you'd say a legitimate. It is legitimate what they're saying, but this is just not the law that most people, like, for instance, I went to school and I'm a paralegal. You have an attorney there, right? This is not the disciplines that we are basically dealing in the same ways. So it's kind of like almost a specialization that has been crafted out to specifically deal with these things, debunking certain things within the government. So that's why, you know, when you have someone who's been trained in law and they have this conversation, we get a little lost and sidetracked, because they're bringing up things that are very valid and true, but it's just not things that, let's say, someone such as myself, who is a paralegal, and you have the attorney there, we're kind of like on the side, but I've heard of it before because, of course, I have relatives who are Moors, and that's the same. Those are the same premises that the Moors would stand on.
Thank you for that insight, Brenda. I'll return you to your evening.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
For the attorney, I would like to ask you, the lawyer, I would like to ask you, in terms of a power of attorney, because I know earlier we were speaking about the concept of being a minor. Now, for the next step that we would take would be a revocation of power of attorney, because from a federal level to a state level, when the state officials are acting as trustees, we have to remove that power of attorney that has been placed on the record for them to take control of all of the things that are dealing with us, whether it's dealing with our health, our finances, or however. That power of attorney stands until we remove it. So once we put our status on the record and then we take away their power of attorney, their ability to act on our behalf, then we can actually step in place and start to do those things ourselves. Because as adults, we don't need anybody to take care of our financial affairs or our health affairs once we know what's going on. But if we don't know, then we're kind of willy nilly. But in terms of that power of attorney, that's a very powerful document, because if someone has the power of attorney over you in your health matters, they can say whether or not to pull the plug when you're not, when you're not in good health, or you're, maybe on a ventilator or something. They can say, okay, pull the plug, because you gave them the ability to do that. But otherwise, they wouldn't be able to. And that's what they're doing. They're, in a sense, getting ready to pull the plug on our financial life support, because right now we don't have control of it. So they can do whatever they want to behind the scenes in equity. And in law and equity, we're not even operating in that realm, because that's what we would call private. That's things that happen behind the scenes. That's why a lot of people don't know these things. But the power of attorney is a really powerful position for anybody to have over your life. And that's what they have.
No, let me, a power of attorney is between two private people. The government has nothing to do with it. And anyone who gives another person a power, whether it's over making medical decisions or handling their fiscal affairs, can revoke it anytime they want to, with or without notice and with or without cause. But no one operates under power of attorney who is not consented to it. There is no general power of attorney out there. And the only way that someone who can get that kind of power over a person who is, to whom it has not been voluntarily given, is by going to court. I talked earlier. I said you can file if you think you have a family member or someone you're close to who's exhibiting conduct or acts in a way that you think they really are not able to take care of their affairs. You can, and if there are two healthcare people who have, after examination, agree with you, you can file a petition in court, and the court can appoint you. The court can appoint you, but you're really the guardian for the court. That's why even before a court appoints anybody as a guardian of a person, you have to attend certain classes and receive certain training, because you have to file reports back with the court over what you do and how you exercise that power. There's no general power of attorney out there that governs anybody's life. And plenty of people execute either absolute or limited powers of attorney. If you are suffering from an illness that you, not today, but you believe in a month or so was going to put you in a position where you can't handle your affairs, and you have somebody in your family or a friend who you trust, you can give that person the power of attorney, but you can also revoke it just as easily. You don't have to go to court to create it, and you don't have to go to court to end it.
Okay, so I take the position to revoke any and all power of attorney that has
it's not a question. It's not a question of a voting upon. I'm telling you what the law is.
I'm saying revoke.
It's not. It's one thing that we must do as people, as black people, or but whatever designation you want, we have to be willing to respect one another's capabilities and our professions. I don't tell a bricklayer how to build a house. When I call a plumber, I don't tell him how to fix my pipe. I call him because he's an expert on plumbing. I happen to be an expert in this area. So my opinion is not based upon popular opinion or vote. It's based upon the knowledge and training that I've acquired over a very long period of time. And you should respect that.
I do. Okay. I really do. And I want to say also, in terms of the land concept, my grandmother, well, actually my great grandmother, she worked for 45 years cleaning people's houses and their clothes to purchase this little plot of land here in Arkansas, and in a county that's not far from where I live now. And her brother, no, actually not her brother, it would have been her grandson, because my father and then Uncle William T, he's the one who actually sold the land to a guy for $85,000. The land, it was 9 acres of land, and it was supposed to be for the grandchildren, which would have been my father, my uncle, and his sister. Well, his sister died, and there was only two boys left, my uncle and his brother. Now, my father has passed, and my uncle is the only one left. That was heir property, but because we didn't document it, nobody understood that you can't sell heir property. So, in order for us to be able to reclaim that land, we would have had to go back and have these things recorded. But my uncle, I did do a documentary with my uncle regarding this land. But when it comes to us stepping forward and trying to reclaim things, when we have people that are on our side that made no law but aren't understanding the concept of our ancestors not writing things down like that, it was just understood in our culture that once I pass, this land is for our family members, and she even spoke that, but we don't have that recorded. But they actually sold the land, so now we don't have access to it. So we can't build on it. We can't put any stores there. We can't houses there or do anything relative to us being able to come up in terms of whether it's financial security, safety, stability. All these things are things that are necessary for life. Because if you don't own any land or you don't have any access, then you can't build anything. You really
So
want
how
somebody
do the land deeds and the treaties play a part in this sovereign reign or this law?
actually the original concept is what is allowing them to rent the land that they're on right now. Any of these buildings, any of these government buildings, they're all renting that land from us based on treaties like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This is how they're able to do that, but we haven't been collecting rents because the whole of the American people are actually employers of these government officials who are just public. They're public parties that are acting on our behalf because we gave them the right to do that. But we had already had trust set up in the original republic that we actually set from the Iroquois Confederacy with this concept of what they formed as the 13 colonies. We came together with those people who knew what they were doing in Britain, and they came here because they didn't want to deal with that anymore. And they saw that we were living based on following the stars and philosophy and things like that, mathematics. They knew that we weren't doing what they were doing over there. So when they came here, we set that treaty with them. We allowed them to rent these lands. Well, the people that came behind them, they came from over there to actually take control of what they were doing. They actually came and they set up all these codes and rules and regulations. But those codes and rules and regulations are for them. They're not for us. The only reason we need to know them is to know how to control what they're doing. So we're not using this stuff ourselves. We help them do what they're supposed to. And yes, we can make them do what they're supposed to because there are things that they're supposed to be doing that they're not doing. But if we don't know that, we can't make them do what they're supposed to. We're just letting them do whatever. And that's where I think we're going wrong. We've got to take control of this ship before it goes off this cliff and everybody's already on board. You know, because if we get off board and then we got the people here with all this stuff that they've created and nobody knows, then they just brainwash all the rest of the people and we get washed out in the crowd. And that's what the problem is. We're getting washed out with everybody's concept of they're renting our land and they're supposed to be paying rents.
So, Horace, how did what you were saying about Redbird? Is that already an establishment?
Yeah, well, yeah, they I want to say it's probably been a couple of years. It could have been longer. But she sort of picked up where Louisiana left off at, because remember, she had them in the church so much that gave her an entire county in Monroe County, Louisiana. But when the federal government came down there and raided her place and took all of her stuff, you know, and without even informing, you know, the local sheriffs, anybody, well, yes, you know, she was elderly and she ended up moving to California. But see, they know these things. They just know that the majority of us don't know them.
Okay, we got Brenda.
And I was trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Horace.
Go ahead, brother. I wasn't saying I wasn't saying anything. I was just, you know, probably, you know, just piggybacking off what the sister was saying. But she's 100% right. And you know, that national debt that they are talking about, all these trillions of dollars, that's the money that you know, to the indigenous people of Turtle Island.
Okay, so Secrete, one thing I want to know is, can you put up in maybe there's a private chat, or maybe you can just state 2 or 3 steps that we can take tonight, that each one listening to the show, specific steps that they can take. And while you're pondering that, we got a comment for you from Brenda Bennett. Hold tight. I thought I had you on speaker. Okay, there you go, Brenda Bennett.
Okay, so I heard so much that was being said about a power of attorney, and I think one of the steps is to actually declare a collective group of people declare themselves as an independent nation within the borders of America. One of the premises that was stood on was John Locke and Thomas Hobbes. In order for there to be, in order for a person to be governed, there has to be a relationship between the governed, or there has to be an agreement between the governed and the governor. And since there was no relationship between the governed and the governor during the time of the ratification of the Constitution, they have no jurisdiction over us. And that would stand in court as it did with the Moors. And that's one of the reasons why in order for a Moorish person to be arrested, they have to bring out federal troops. And that's one of the reasons why we deal with them separately, because they present a valid claim. In order for you to have to have agreed to it, just like when we vote, right? As a collective, we're agreeing that we are under the jurisdiction or the auspices of a specific individual. But during the time of the ratification of the Constitution, we were not a part of the collective. We were not considered. So that would actually be the first step. And the next, I think that's the very first step, identifying the group as an independent nation within the borders of the United States of America, and an indigenous Indian, putting the Indian in, because that also would help for all of the other traditions stuff to be applied.
Okay, thank you, brother. We're gonna let somebody comment on that. Any thoughts, panel?
Yeah, I was thinking about, you know, it's a lot going on in my head, but I'm adamant about that Treaty of Cassetta. Amongst the Creeks, it was
about what? About what?
I'm adamant about the Treaty of Cassetta. Amongst the Creek Indians and Muskogee Indians, it was those who was highly educated, and it was those who didn't understand. It was supposed to be 56 people that signed this treaty, and I think it was only something like 9 that actually signed it. So now we boxed into a game that we got to play, and then even amongst our own ranks, we got our own people to say, let's play this game. I think that's unfair. I think that when you look back at where the origins at, where it first started, yeah, we had people that gave up stuff because, yeah, you fresh out of slavery, or you fresh out of being free. You don't understand how this game going. But what I'm saying is that we got something here. We got something with treaties. And I know treaty law is go above civilian law or all this, like she said, the federal. You get the federal system in it, get the state out of it, because the state don't have nothing to do with treaties, right? Am I correct, or if I'm just talking?
Well, you correct. Well, see, a lot of people don't know that the feds are the illegitimate child of the state. The state created the Fed, and so they like a renegade child, you know, that, you know, and so and a lot of people don't know what the word federal means. Contract.
There's a comment
Brenda,
in it.
Brenda,
So
that's
what we're dealing with.
I can hear you thinking. Come on, Brenda.
Contracts.
I'm hearing everything that's being said, but how you would kind of get yourself out of all of that is just declare as an independent nation within the borders of America. And you're an Indian nation within the borders of America. Independent. There you go. The substantive
Well, see,
laws of the land, they don't apply to those groups of people. They don't apply to the nations. They have their own laws and their own sovereignty. So if people really
well, see, it's
I'm going to hijack this conversation for a second. This is from Secrete. She's saying these 4 items we all need to look into: an affidavit of status, a revocation of power of attorney, declaration of domicile, and a living life claim. Thank you so much, Secrete. I'll return you back.
So, I mean,
well, you know, it's
okay, so who has the power of attorney? I know that we're all under the auspices of the federal government as citizens in this land, or because we do have a birth certificate, which our birth certificate kind of like it binds us in. So if she's going to say revocation of I don't know, but I just don't see the power of attorney, because what is the power of attorney? We haven't given anyone permission to act for us.
Okay, let me bounce this off of Mr. Dashiell, the attorney. Mr. Dashiell, does this ring a bell with you? Affidavit of status and these items listed here?
I've already talked about what a power of attorney is, so I have no idea. I never heard of an affidavit of. I don't know what is meant by the concept of an affidavit of status, and I never heard of a declaration of domicile or a living life claim. So there's things called a living will, which is typically a document that gives someone the authority to make certain health decisions for you, but even that is voluntary. And I've explained already that a power of attorney there's no generic power of attorney that only exists if a person willingly and voluntarily gives that to someone. And an affidavit of status, I could conclude, means of some sort of form where you say what you want to be called, which I said from the beginning. Everyone individually has a right to. You have a right to say, I want to be called Black or Negro or American or Indigenous or Native in it. You have a right to say that's what you want to be called. But there's no. See, it all has to begin somewhere. Even if you're talking about treaties, the treaty is between 2 parties.
Yes, sir.
So you can't, on the one hand, say that one doesn't exist, but at the same time say that that party entered into an agreement with somebody else. So in order for that to be a treaty, there has to be a government that the other party recognizes having authority to enter into the agreement and against whom the terms could be enforced. So once you recognize and that government exists, then you are acquiescing to and you are agreeing to the authority of that government to act in the way that it's acting. So I mean, and yes, do the laws solve all problems? No. The problem with heir property is because the person who died didn't leave a will. If the heir property problem could have been avoided if the person left a will and designated who was to be the owner of the property. They didn't do that, and so therefore all of the heirs within a certain lineage anyway had a claim to ownership. Yeah, I've had situations where I had to search the country looking for descendants of heirs because the person who died didn't leave a will. The law didn't create that problem. The government didn't create that problem. The person created that problem by not taking the time to create a will, which would have avoided all of that. I mean, and yes, and of course there are people every day who are taken advantage of because they don't know. But we have a responsibility. We got to accept part of the responsibility for not knowing. You know, we got to accept part of that responsibility. You know, we can't blame other people for our ignorance when the facts are available. If we want to take time to learn what they are.
Yeah, I believe that's what we're trying to do when we're trying to establish some type of plan and some type of strategy to give, or at least to talk to the people. We're taking some type of responsibility of getting righting the ship. You know,
I understand that, but I humbly suggest that you got to start with closer to where the people are today. When you start having conversations with people that talked about treaties that were signed in the 19th century, you're not going to reach the people. You may be 100% correct in your terms of your historical knowledge. You may be absolutely correct in terms of the chronology of events. But if the purpose of communication is to be understood.
yes.
And in order to be understood, you got to begin with understanding where the person is that you're trying to teach. And if you can't, it's like my granddaddy said about the mule. Yeah, he'll go where you tell him, but you got to get his attention first. And you're not going to get anybody's attention by beginning the conversation talking about something that 3 centuries ago that they don't understand, when there are problems that they're facing today. The person asks, well, how would understanding that treaty put food on my table tomorrow morning that I don't have in the refrigerator right now? That's the issue that's the problem that you have. It's not just being smart and being educated is not the end all and be all. Being able to change the problem is the issue, is the thing. And so that's what I suggest that we need to focus on.
Okay, I just want to do a plug. We got a new book out, Black Blueprint, Baltimore to Burkina Faso. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Also, please like and subscribe to this show. Brenda, you've been patiently waiting. And also, if you want to be on the show, just email me and Mafia. You can put your own email up there. But if you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you. Brenda Bennett, welcome back.
Okay, so I just wanted to say something.
And you only get 30 seconds, Brenda.
Of an individual nation within the borders of the United States is that you have to petition for statehood, right? You have to draft up your own constitution. You have to get approval of the state, and have other individuals who are also declaring that they would like to be under the jurisdiction of this nation. So she's speaking about it. I don't know the young lady's name.
Secrete.
She's speaking about it from an individual point of view. But when you come as a collective, you have more power with triple numbers. If you have a big collective, very often inside of the chat, I type nationhood, nation building, because that's where you get some sort of recognition and credibility. 1 or 2 or 3 different people are not going to do it. It's a movement. It's a movement that has to take place, and you have to get some sort of credibility, recognition, and submitting those documents. If you have, let's say, how many people watching this show, how many people watching all the other Indigenous series, and everyone should come together That's where the strength is.
Okay,
it's not going to be in 1 or 2, 20, 300, 400. If you can mass up millions of people to say, okay, we want to have an independent nation within the borders of the United States, and basically identify that we are and prove that we are the indigenous of this land, that's when you're going to have some sort of credibility and some real response.
Okay, we're going to get some comment from the crowd.
Yeah, I understand that. I agree. I'm listening, Horse.
Well, I want to touch on a couple of things. When we're dealing with jurisdiction,
Planet Wells, you've been over there real quiet. And then Harsh to come in off the road, Hannibal to come in 2-3 times, Mafia to shot 2 3-pointers from half court, even the Sister Secrete, and you just been quiet as a hooker on the front row at Easter service. Come on, make some noise.
Well, okay. This is what I think. This is what I think. And shout out to everyone here.
Yes, sir.
I think this. And I know this is going to seem simplistic, but it's a real request, and it's a real challenge. Okay. All of the panel are overwhelmingly bright, intelligent, and have history in different areas. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, I'm not in that area, but that's one thing, and it's very important. But in terms of today, I propose this idea that no copper skin, no black person, no brown person do harm to any other brown, black, indigenous, American, whatever terms you want. Don't do any harm. No violence. Do not applaud violence. Like, oh shit, Byron shot that guy down there. Whoa, you should have seen. Don't applaud any of that. Okay? Stop it. Now, that's physical, but also stop it mentally in your head. Stop that. Okay? This is basic. Everybody can do what I'm saying right now. Have positive thoughts about people who look like you, and if you can, support them. Now, I'm not talking about a situation where you have no alternative. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about that. You have to defend yourself or whatever. But take that extra step to understand and cherish your people. That's what I have to say. It's simple, but it's hard to do, but that's what I have to say right now.
I want, if I don't mind, I try to take a couple of notes, while, the things were being said by, Sister Secrete as my Esquire brother at the bottom. Your name disappeared. I forgot your name, brother. Then the Sister Ben. First of all, I'm dealing with what the Sister Bennett was saying in regards to a nation within the nation. Well, like me, Mafia discussed the other day, there's in a commercial jurisdiction, land, the military, and your own form of currency. That's the first thing. The second thing is when we're dealing with jurisdiction, we're only dealing with spoken oaths. And what the third thing is that, like the brother was saying, that we give this consent or whatever, if we do that unknowing, because we didn't know, because we got to realize is that the intent of the person who forms the contract, it determines whether the contract. So these contracts that they had bounded us to without our competency, automatically makes the contracts null and void. On a big scale. So far as dealing with a will, only allows these vampires, the probate off of what you leave behind for so on. So that's why trust is very important. And last but not least, well, I think that was it. You know what I'm saying? So far as that's concerned. So those are just the pointers that I wanted to touch upon. But we can't be sovereign, until we have our own everything. And dealing with the pyramids and the mounds that we have been. It came to my mind, Mafia, Hannibal, and Planet, is that this is what Martin Luther King meant by, I've seen the mountaintop, I've been there, and I might not be there with you. And so these mountaintops he was talking about was these pyramids that when we get up, man, we're about to shake this mother up. So I'm saying.
Can I say something to the Sister Brenda, and then I like to give a description of these documents so that I think we can all maybe get a little clarity on what they're for and the reason we have them. As far as what she's saying about a nation, that is so powerful, and that's why I'm here today. I talked to Mafia on yesterday, and I discussed with him the way forms work. When you do it individually, it's just one thing, but we're monitored in numbers. When we do go and do these forms, then they see that they've got a lot of people that are what they're saying, that are stepping out of their, and they have the possibility of creating their own nation. Now, when we step out of their system and we do create our own nation, then there's nothing they can say about it, because we've actually shown them that now we understand what's going on. We don't approve of it, because sometimes people need you to state to them, because everything is not understood already. A lot of things are implied. And what happens with power of attorneys are, they're implied powers of attorney that we didn't necessarily say, oh yeah, you can see over my record, but system unknowingly due to our parents, then we kind of implied our expressed understanding of it, even though we were babies. So what we've got to do is put it on the record so they can see. We're not asking them for anything. All we're doing is reclaiming what we should have had available to us already. So with the affidavit of status, it declares our living standing, our lineage, and our status outside of the 14th Amendment United States citizen classification. United States citizen is different from an American citizen, and it's different from an American. All these things are different when it comes to the legal recognition of it. So when we're talking about legal and lawful, we've got to understand, if we're going to do anything commerce in the public, that's legal, and we've got to know how to correct that, so that when we're dealing in the private, we're not misinterpreting who we are and thinking that we're still this public person, because our persona is what precedes us whenever we go into any situation. So that if we come in and we look like a cat, and we walk like a cat, and we're meowing, they're gonna say, "Oh, that's a cat," and they're gonna treat us like a cat. But if we come in and we're roaring, and we've got this big mane, and then we got a group of people with us that's like a pack, they're gonna know that we're lions, and we didn't come to play games. Like Martin Luther King said, that when we come back, we're coming to get our check. We're not coming to keep playing games. And see, the thing is, once we do this part, then we go and we reclaim our bond, and we reclaim all these contracts that had us under, and then we go and we do a forensic audit, and then we go and we start taking those numbers and seeing exactly how much money they have made off of each one of our things. And if 13% of us, like my brother, shout out to Dane Calloway, if 13% of us, we'll shut this whole system down tomorrow. When we go and claim that type of money back, there's something we can't stand, because it can't stand against us as a nation, like Linda said. Because when we come together with all our money back, 13%, it's over. They can't, because we're going to shut their companies down. They're going to have to pay too much money out, because one of our contracts, one of our bonds is enough to bring them to their knees, because it's been building interest this whole time. But we didn't know about that. Now we do. Now we can actually go and reclaim it and state it as ours, because any contract can be undone. All you have to do is rescind it.
I want to pose a question for everybody on the panel. How much does the contract and the legalese affect the spiritual aspect of knowing who we are? Like, even without claiming your status or any of that, how does being in these contracts and under these laws affect the spiritual aspect of it?
Well, if I can touch on that, if with the tree of life, and the last vibration on the tree is Mount Ku. So now, if they can bind you to the contracts, they can always bind you to the lower vibrations. But we also have to realize one of the main things that we are bound by is our language. That's the number one thing, is the language. So this is how they were able to trick us, by giving us the language that we're speaking, and then speaking legalese in a whole nother language. You know, you say, well, hey man, did you eat the hamburger? To the common person, you thinking eating a hamburger. To them, eating means shoot, and hamburger means man. So that's how they were able to bind us to these lower vibrations, and it can keep us bound in the third dimensional density, and locked in these vibrations, these codes, that they're sucking these energies, you know, from us as a people, because we are literally the plug. if we are not there, nobody lights up.
Okay. So that aligns with.
Well, Mafia, let me just tell you, hey, Mafia,
Yeah.
this show is way above my pay grade. What did you want us to take away from this, Mafia? You orchestrated this all.
I wanted us to take away how in depth it is, because we usually talk about, our genealogy and our history, and we talk about spirituality, but the legalese and the legality and the lawfulness, this is what has us tied into it. So we need to dive deeper into a topic like this, because this covers politics as well. You know what I'm saying? We have a better understanding of what politics is to us if we understand legalities. You know what I'm saying? From a professional standpoint.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying, but I will tell you, it's a lot of words. I will say too that I've seen some comments in the sidebar in the comment section, not saying the most flattering things about Mr. Dashiell. And so for the edification of the panel, I just want to let you know that this man has worked on behalf of Black businesses.
Yes.
In this state, here in Maryland. Hey, Harsh, you got a lot of feedback coming from. That's why I be putting it on mute. I don't know if the air conditioning.
That's not me.
No? Oh, okay. But
that's not me this time, brother. That ain't me this time.
But Mr. Dashiell has worked diligently for, I would say, 50 years, Mr. Dashiell?
53 to be exact.
53 years defending our people. So these people in the sidebar with these comments, pump your brakes a little bit, because while this topic is not his bailiwick, I can tell you his bailiwick has been helping Black businesses here in the city of Baltimore, here in the state of Maryland, even to the extent of forming or being a co-founder of the Maryland Minority Contractors Association. So I get it. We got some newbies, some young people in the chat, and they have a certain perspective, but calm down, pump your brakes a little bit, because this has been a go-to for hundreds of businesses in my state who have been struggling. And on that note, a major piece of business from a legal standpoint that this affects a lot of melanated people is the whole dismantling of the disadvantaged business enterprise system, which provided a lot of contracts that helped create a lot of millionaires in the Black community. So that is something that Mr. Dashiell knows a lot about. And Mr. Dashiell's on that note, we have started a ruckus online as it relates to the whole DBE contract. So there you go, Mafia. But more than anything, I want you to bring this home and make it simple for the everyday person, because we got a lot of people who know what this is about, but I, for one, this is straight over my head.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to bring it full circle as to, we all have an individual choice of what we identify as or what we choose to identify as. But we are having an issue of identifying as a collective. If we all have a common enemy or we have a common issue, we can solve that collectively and commonly. And identifying with who we are, with the historians and the research and everything that everybody has brought forth to the table, is identifying with self first is the greatest thing that we can do. So that's why I brought this show together, Mr. Dashiell. Great pleasure to have you. I love when you was on the previous show as well, and Secrete. So I just wanted to bring everything in front of the people so that we can see what we are dealing with. Like Cor said, with the language, the legalese, like all of this is an issue, how we identify with ourselves.
Cool beans. Harsh, you wanted to bring up something before we get up out of here?
Well, you know what, man? Hey, if I have to save it for a later show, that's cool.
Yeah, we should save it for a later show. I wanted to make sure that you were addressed, and thank you for all that you do. Mafia, anybody got a final burning comment before we go?
Just to repeat, don't do all that you can not to do any harm to a melanated person in any situation. Always take a pause. Okay? If you can walk away from it, walk away from it. But don't do that indefinitely. Don't applaud anyone who does that as that they're doing some kind of heroic act or whatever. We have to solve this problem in mind, thought, and deed. Do no harm to your people. It takes courage to do that. But that's just the simplification that I see. Okay.
I do want to add that I have heard about Moors who have gone to court and dismantled judges. I've heard those stories. I've never seen it, but I've heard of stories of Moors who have gone to court and obliterated judges. All right, Horace, we got to pay homage to the ancestors, man.
All right, here we come. Giving honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the great Queen Neitha of Chicago, who defeated 5 armies of invading Europeans, the most honorable Empress Wadayasi, Chief Redbird, Chief Warhorse, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Dr. Delbert Blair, the Honorable Taj Tariq Bey and Dr. G, the Honorable Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Francis C. Welsing, Dr. Ari Khanna, Sister Shahrazad Ali, Mama T, Sister Vicky Dillard, Sister Myra, Dr. Joy DeGroot, Patrice Lumumba, Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, the late, great C. Freeman Hill, Dr. Martin Luther King, Che Guevara, Dr. Malachi Z. York, the Honorable Dr. Malachi Z. York, Omali Yashatila, Julius Malema, President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, the beloved Brother Bobby Hemmett, the Honorable Reverend Dr. Phil Valentine, Nellie Fuller, Fred Hampton, Ivor Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, Anthony T. Browder, Dr. Booker T. Coleman, Professor James Small, the sister on YouTube who goes by the name of LaChris, Rod Hayes, as well as Young Elder, Steve Coakley, Billy Carson, 19 Keys, Dane Calloway, Karimo Ahua, Rizza Islam, the legendary Top Catz, the beloved brother Tariq Nasheed, the late great Dr. TB, the late great Dr. Leila Key Awakening, the young brother King Randall, Magic 363, the beloved brother Doni Glover for providing us with this platform for us to reach our people, the honorable and wise Planet Wells, the beloved brother Hannibal James, the young, wise, and intelligent brother Mafia Shakur, our guest Secret Balance, the Robert Dashiell Esquire, and all of our viewers who are 100% down with us without any questions whatsoever.
Horse leader 4.
Amen.
Appreciate that, brother.
Horse leader 4.
Good night, all.
Denmark VC, Tucson Lover,
Sunrise.
My mother and my daddy. Thank you all for joining us.
James Davis.
Yeah, Ashe.
Booker T. Jones.
Yeah, you gotta add Malcolm X in that list, man. Stop playing.
Yes, sir.
No, you must didn't hear it.
No, I didn't.
I had Malcolm in there.
Peace. We don't want no smoke.
Peace.
Planet you ladies. Secret, you gotta come back.
Okay.
And what peoples do you claim, Secret?
Well, my grandmother said that her mother was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian, and my father said that his grandfather was named Red Bat, and he was a Blackfeet Indian.
I'm Blackfeet too. Now we got to work on your reception because every time you talk, it's like somebody got a radio or the 3-letter people are zapping you. You got some people outside your house in a black car?
I hope not.
Okay, well we pray protection over you and everybody else. Shout out to Candy Bar, Lindell Leafy, Jason Jackson Wright. Y'all been blowing up. Choctaw, Vera Sanders, Moolah Rebel Squad, shout out. Mad Dog Media TV. Y'all was hard on my. That's my attorney. Y'all can't be slamming him, dude. What y'all doing? He paid for this show, by the way. And by the way, you want to sponsor the show? We got packages for you. So y'all gonna be chasing my sponsors away. Y'all gonna kick in yourself. Craig. Who else? Because they've been rolling in here. I want to get
Brenda Bennett.
Brenda Bennett. Please don't forget Brenda Bennett. Chief GoldenEye. Chief GoldenEye don't play. Peace, brother. Please. Yes. He out there with Candy. Say Craig. Night Crave. When Night Crave come through, he got like he's surgical with it. American.
Hey, I got a question, Donnie.
Yep. Big Mama's baby.
Wait a minute, man. Where in the world is Kimmy TV at with the sideways movement?
Oh, he got banned. He got banned, man. I got tired of look. It's one thing you saying a little slick stuff in there, but you keep going on and everything is negative. I don't think we have to be subjected to that.
Well, I had something to split his wig tonight. I was gonna split his wig open tonight, man. So if he watching, like yeah.
If I were a teacher today, some kids would get put out. You ain't coming back in until you bring your mother and your father up in here.
Right.
See, we got 70% single mother household. Let's get to the real of it, because we do a lot of American Indian. We talk a lot about it. 70% of our community is single mother led. Now, I don't care what tribe you're from. We really got to get down to it. And that's not my show, because I ain't doing it. They keep asking me. We need to know how to get along, men and women.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
We haven't learned that. We have not learned it. I look at the chats. I see the comments online. Oh, girl, make sure you get them to pay for this. And it's like, but here's the wicked part. We are doing this in front of children. And we think the children ain't watching us? Somebody grandmother, you on social media naked. It's nothing but panties and bra. You somebody's grandmother. I mean, damn. Do we need a Bible? Do we need a powwow to know? I mean, Secrete, thank you for coming as the queen you are. But Secrete, and the brothers still sagging. You 55 years old and you sagging, bro. You got grandchildren. And then let's not even forget the mass incarceration. 70% of the people that get released in the state of Maryland come back to my zip code in Maryland, in Baltimore, West Baltimore, 21217. That's where everybody come back to. So we got to stop this going in and out of jail. And I mean, where I live, going to prison is normalized. I spent all of 3 days in my 60 years with some in a cell.
Can I say something about that? Me and Mafia were
No, we done, Secrete, because you done took over enough. But
no,
all right, Secrete, I'll be
come
nice.
Come on. All right.
Well, we were talking about that earlier when we were talking about astrology. And by the way, you mentioned Sister Myra the other day. Oh my God, thank you, Sister Myra, so much. She is a heaven sent. That astrology is the reason, because we're not aware of who we really are. We've been allowing other people to tell us who we are, and then they'll tell us our sun sign. Well, we've got a sun sign, a moon sign, a rising sign. All the different planets are our tools. So, once we understand these things, then we can understand the systems that have led us here and how to get free from it. Because all of this is based on us not knowing who we are. It's deeper than just saying I'm an Indian or I'm a Cherokee or whatever. It's really about you understanding what rises, what sign is rising in the horizon when you were born. And then you start to chart your map all the way around, and you see exactly who you are. Because I'm a Virgo sun, Leo rising, and Pisces moon in the 8th house. So
what sign is that? Y'all kill me with all of these risings and descendants. What's your birthday?
September 14th, 1981.
Oh, one of them Virgos. Lord have mercy. Jesus, Allah, Muhammad, Nam Yeho, Renge Kyo. My God, a Virgo? Lord, I'm done.
In the second house, that's why I'm coming with these strategic like this.
Yeah.
And I'm coming with that lecture because I'm making sure.
Thank God you wasn't in the first house because I don't understand none of that.
Yeah,
When y'all birthday? Since we doing birthdays, when your birthday, Mafia?
I'm 12/23, December 23rd, 1989.
About you, Hannibal?
February 17th, 74.
What's that? Aquarius?
Yes, sir.
What about you, Planet?
11/24.
The Sag?
Yeah. Depending
How
on
about
what
you, Mars?
system
Do
you're
you
in.
have a sign?
Yeah,
You from another planet. I know they don't have signs on that planet.
I'm May 24th, man. My rising sign is Leo.
One of them Geminis?
Yeah.
You got that right.
Wow. You know some of the greatest artists in the world are Geminis. Kendrick Lamar,
Sun
Patti
Ra,
LaBelle, Prince, Tupac, Biggie, Kanye.
Miles Davis.
Yes, right. Even your boy Donald Trump.
Yep.
That ain't my boy, Jack. The orange Teletubby is not my dude. You like him, Secrete? You like the orange Teletubby?
I'm not particular for anybody who doesn't have the cognitive ability to function normally in society, and he's not one of those people.
Yeah, he is not nice to people. Even the little kids, though. You see what that little kid
necessary.
said in the White House? You're not the president. All right, we need to know. Please like and subscribe. Horace, thank you for coming through, soldier. Good evening, world.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir, bro. I appreciate you.
Good to see you.